I mean, it's chilling to think about the fact that this may have come from this Wuhan lab and that it may have been funded in part to some extent by the American government. That the man we've been looking to and trusting as our chief authority on all things COVID for the past 18, 19 months, Dr. Fauci, may have been part of the group that approved the very project that ultimately endangered billions of people and cost 4 million lives so far. I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like Peter Daszak's group was funding, if not the exact research that led to COVID, that this branch of, coronavirus, then one that was very close to it.
Yeah, and this is sort of this game that Dr. Fauci plays. In the end, he responds and says, well, the virus in question is molecularly so different from COVID, it couldn't have been the COVID-19. But we've never alleged that. If it were COVID-19, everybody would know that. It's a virus using gain-of-function techniques that was made to be more transmissible in humans. That's what gain-of-function research is. But not one interviewer, when he goes on to mainstream TV, which is all he does, mainstream left-wing TV, they yuck it up, they laugh, they chortle, they think how hilarious these conspiracy theories are, but never once does someone ask him, why is this not gain-of-function research? What they were doing was taking the SARS virus, which is a coronavirus. This caused a pandemic in 2004. It was very deadly, 15% mortality, but not very transmissible. So you have a very deadly virus that doesn't easily infect people. It doesn't go very far. Now, how smart would it be to take a very deadly virus that's not very transmissible and add different S protein genes to it to see if you could make it more transmissible? So in one of the experiments, they got 8 brand new viruses from a cave, hunting around in a cave in South China. They bring it. They take the genes for the S protein on the unknown viruses, and they combine it with the SARS backbone genome, and then they reverse the transcription to make a virus. And lo and behold, they found at least 2 out of the 8 were transmissible to humans. So they have created something that doesn't exist in nature. And in fact, their argument that, we can use this to study how to make vaccines, it's not how we make vaccines now. We don't make vaccines based on a novel virus that doesn't occur in nature. We actually have the ability, which is incredible technology. And I think ultimately history will judge the development of the vaccine as one of the most incredible scientific developments in such a short period of time. But we can take a brand new virus that's infecting people and making them sick, and we can sequence its genome. They have automated technology. They can do this within days. They can develop a vaccine within days to an existing pathogen. There's no reason to create pathogens to study for vaccines anymore. The technology has gone beyond that. And so I'm calling not only for an end to the funding in China, I don't think we should be creating these super viruses in the United States either, because I think there's a potential that we create something that is so terrible that it may cause, incredibly more harm than this one even did.
That's a great point. And that's the sort of the sequencing that happened in China is important because while Fauci denies gain-of-function research was done with any U.S. money, these documents obtained by The Intercept contain several critical details about the research happening in Wuhan by our guys with American money, including key experimental.
Yeah.
But let me just finish this point. Including key experimental work with humanized mice conducted at the lab in Wuhan Center. All right, so they were taking mice with more human characteristics to see if they could infect them with this terrible COVID version, not COVID-19, but a terrible version of COVID. And literally, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal, an op-ed by 2 really smart guys, Stephen Quay and Richard Muller, a couple months ago, saying, here's what happened. We actually looked at the genome of COVID-19, and we are telling you that optimization of this virus has happened before it got to us. It suggests a long period of adaptation that predated the spread, not of the virus that they were working on under Daszak, but of COVID-19 itself. They said, science knows of only one way this could be achieved: simulated natural evolution, growing the virus on human cells until the optimum is achieved. That's precisely what is done in gain-of-function research. Mice that are genetically modified to have the same coronavirus receptor as humans, called humanized mice, are repeatedly exposed to the virus to encourage adaptation. That is what they are seeing in COVID-19 COVID-19. And it's what these documents show we were funding the experiments on in these other COVID viruses that Dr. Fauci takes no responsibility for.
Right. And so, we'll never know for certain that it came from the lab. Here's the evidence for it. Number one, they've studied 80,000 animals in those wet markets, and not one of them has COVID. The other thing is we take COVID-19 that's available in humans and being transmitted human to human, and then they try to reinfect bats. And they find that COVID-19 is more adapted for humans than bats. So if it came from bats through an intermediate host, there still should be some infectivity back to either a host or to bats. And they find that it's more adapted to humans, which makes people very, very suspicious that this was pre-adapted. Some of the scientists have said this didn't evolve. It was pre-adapted to be successful in humans. And that's very, very worrisome. And even the possibility of that should give us pause. But Dr. Fauci was asked a month ago by Senator Kennedy in committee, do you trust the Chinese? And he said, well, that's where the bat viruses are. It would be malpractice not to go there. Well, it's one thing to study the bat viruses. It's another to trust the Chinese Communist Party. Some of the virology labs are populated with people directly from the military. Now, while I don't think this was released on purpose as a bioweapon, I think they do study bioweapons. And I think that the Chinese communists have shown themselves not to be trustworthy. But the fact that Dr. Fauci still considers themselves to be trustworthy, that he's still funding this Chinese lab, shows him to be unfit to be in any position of authority.